My name is Hayden Baker and welcome back to Hayden Cinema. And today we're going to be talking about the movie Last Breath. Before we get started, go ahead and click the subscribe button and hit your notification bell, and that way you're up to date on when I post. And you can go through my channel. I have plenty of reviews out now. Now let's get into The Last Breath. So basically the premise of this film is actually a true story about these saturated divers who maintain and maintenance these oil rigs or pipelines in the bottom of the ocean that basically run the world. And that's already interesting enough to me. That automatically captures my attention. But it's based on the true story that in 2012 these two divers went down there and one of them got stuck. And it's the story of the rescue and recovery of Chris Lemons, who was the guy who got stuck down there. Now, there's really no way to talk about this movie without necessarily spoiling it, and also it is a true story, so if you don't want anything spoiled, I promise it's okay. Just go watch it. You can rent it now on Vudu or Amazon and come back. Or you can go watch the documentary yourself. So this company that is maintaining these pipelines down in the bottom of the ocean, or they separate these crews into threes and they go into these bells is what they call them. And the writing in this does a really good job at telling you the risks of what could happen and why they do certain things. Like the ship is sea level and then they drop this bell down so many feet, and I think the total distance may be 300 feet, or that's where the bell stops. Because if you, no matter this gear that they got on, if they were to rush up to the top from the bottom of the ocean floor, their brains would literally create bubbles and just, you would explode from the inside. So again, the movie does a really good job at telling you that. And it explains what they're doing. They are the maintenance crew for these pipelines. And I work in labor. I've worked at a paper mill. I currently work at a boat company, and I'm a welder here. And where I relate with this is that I've always wanted to be a welder. And when I first started welding in high school, I wanted to be an underwater welder. And what they're doing here is the reason I don't want to be an underwater welder. And so I was already kind of tense going into this. But we get really great performances from Finn Cole, who does play Chris Lemons, who is the guy who does get stuck down there. And again, Woody Harrelson does an amazing job. He always does. This is now one of my favorite performances he's done. Not my favorite, Zombieland is. And White Men Can't Jump, to me, you just can't beat it. I've never seen Natural Born Killers, but I think he does a really well job in this. He plays a very vetted and seasoned saturated diver, but in this he's not a diver. David and Chris are the divers, and he's just the third man in the bell who is there to stretch the leads out and turn their oxygen on and off and stuff like that. And again, Finn Cole does an amazing job playing that diver who he's only had 5 dives up to this point, and he seems nervous, but he seems like he knows what he's doing at this point. And so Simu, I think is his name, I hope I'm not butchering that, but he plays David in this, and his character's kind of weary of Chris, and he's like, I really hope I don't have to hold this guy's hand. And he doesn't until he gets stuck, but he doesn't have to hold his hand. And it actually gives you kind of false hope. You start thinking, wow, these guys are really good. And they know what they're doing. They're going to make it. And then you're thinking, well, maybe it's like the second dive, because I'm sure they're probably going to do multiple dives. And they're down there for 6 hours. Also, that was another thing that the writing does with telling you what happens, is they're down there for 6 hours at a time. Mark Bonner, who plays Craig, who is basically the head man of the ship. He's not the captain, but he's like the head of the crew. He's talking about how they're heading into the storm. And so the ship gets caught in this storm, and he tells Duncan, played by Woody Harrelson, hey, go ahead and retrieve your men. We're finna start drifting. We can't hold. And so he tells David and Chris to come on up, and that's when the accident happens. And Chris's umbilical cord gets snagged, and they're on top of this manifold. Chris's oxygen line gets kinked up, and he can't breathe. And so David tells him to use his backup, and he turns on his backup, and he's like, you have 10 minutes. He goes, you're gonna pass out. Just stay on top of this manifold. the line's gonna snap, and dude's lead is literally holding this entire ship from moving, and it is just stuck and wedged in this manifold. And he tells him, hey, it's going to snap, and when it does, you're going to go to the bottom. I need you to swim back up to the top of the manifold and stay there, and I will come back for you. And that is literally what happens. I love that the movie gives you a timestamp of the dude's oxygen running out. He has so many minutes until his oxygen runs out. So, like, every 2 minutes or so, it's updating you on that time. And honestly, that builds the tension even more. And you're like, oh my God. And then it happens, and he runs out of oxygen. But then he makes it on top of the manifold. And then the ship runs into technical difficulties, and the crew just comes together, and it's such an awesome way. They finally make it back to Chris on the manifold. It had done been 17 minutes. And then by the time they actually get down to him and are able to rescue him, it had done been 29 minutes, I believe is what they said. So he went 29 minutes without oxygen. So it had done been like 40 minutes or so. And they bring him back into the Belle finally. And you feel relieved. And once again, Finn Cole does awesome at playing that. And you believe it. It's so realistic. It was kind of funny because me and my girlfriend kind of laughed at this. But out of nowhere, like, the shot is focused on David, and you just hear Chris's voice say, hey dude, are you okay? And they look up and they're like, what, you're alive? And they're like, no, yeah, we're okay, are you okay? It's just the whole wrap up there's such a happy ending to it. And again, it's real, it really happened. And that just, it blows my mind. And my girlfriend was like, how does he survive that? And I was like, I don't know. I think like the average person maybe can hold their breath like to 4 minutes with practice, maybe 10. But I don't believe 30 minutes with no oxygen. And I was like, surely he's like going to be messed up at some point. And there's nothing wrong with him. There's no long-lasting conditions or issues or injuries that came about that. These guys actually end up going back down there and finishing the job. It's just a wonderful story and a real life thing that is played out very well. So I had an amazing time watching this. If you've watched it, let me know. Let's talk about it. Or if you haven't, you've seen the documentary or you just know the story, let's all talk about it. I'm really curious about this. If you haven't already, be sure to like and subscribe and comment. And again, let's talk about it, and hit the notification bell. That way you know when I'm posting, you stay up to date with my posts. You can follow me on X, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and Letterboxd. And we all talk about movies and shows over there. So come join the community and be part of the fun and the conversation. I hope you enjoyed watching this just as much as I enjoyed making it for you. I'll see you guys next time.